Okay, it is 6 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Okay, the meeting's called to order. The McKinleyville Community Services District Board of Directors for Wednesday, March 6, 2024. Jerry, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. President Bender?
Yes.
Director Beitman?
Here.
Director Couch?
Here.
Director Mayo?
Present.
And Director Orsini?
Present.
Okay, thank you. Director Couch, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item A3, additions or changes to the agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
There are no additions or changes to the agenda.
Thank you. Closed session discussion. At any time during the, well, I don't need to read that, do I?
Actually, you skipped
I can skip the header.
No.
All right.
you skipped item A4.
Oh, there it is right on the bottom.
always on the bottom.
Okay.
It's hard
Approval of the agenda. I'll call for a motion. Okay, there's a
Second.
motion second. And we have a second. Joey, please.
President Bender?
Yes.
Director Beitman?
Yes.
Director Couch?
Yes.
Director Mayo?
Present. Yes.
Yes. And Director Orsini?
Aye.
I did that a couple months ago, too.
Okay, the agenda is binding. Okay, closed session discussion. And there are no closed sessions tonight. Public hearings, there are no public hearings scheduled. Public comment and written communications. Any person may address the board at this time upon any subject not identified on this agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the McKinleyville Community Services District. However, any matter that requires action will be referred to staff for a report of action at a subsequent committee or board meeting. As to matters on the agenda, an opportunity will be given to address the board when the matter is considered. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Letters should be used for complex issues. Is there anyone who wishes to participate in public comment?
Hi, I'm Charlie Coldwell, live here in McKinleyville. You guys know who I am. Hey, something was brought to my attention the other day, and I thought I would ask you guys, because you probably know, and it's probably maybe something I missed, but the bridle trail seems to be being decommissioned because there's a lot of sections of it that aren't usable. So I thought I would just bring it to your attention. I'll probably bring it to the Recreation Advisory Board, but some of the horse people have noticed it's not usable right now. So that's all I had to say. I know it's not on the agenda, but
Can I have just a clarifying question? The Central Avenue?
yeah,
Bridle
the
Trail?
Central Avenue Bridle Trail.
Thank you.
And,
Okay.
and how about me as well? Hang on. Thank
Got
you.
it.
Come back. So which spots?
The spots like in front of the new construction going on at the Taco Bell and down a little bit further past that,
Right.
kind of where the old pharmacy used to be in those areas, and the fire department.
Yeah. So just a quick on that is that's not the first time, and over the years when I was actually actively riding and using it as a bridle trail, which I was out of here when that was built, advocated for it, and wasn't here when it was built. And if I had been here, hopefully it wouldn't have been that non-bridle trail, bridle trail. But I got to go through there with my machete, and many people, when we rode, Tracy Ann Thompson over here did it a lot. Take our machetes and ride and have to chop the damn limbs out of our way so we could ride through there. So it's an ongoing issue, but thanks for
Okay,
bringing it up.
and I'll probably bring it up at the Recreation Advisory Committee too, and see if there's something maybe our group can do.
Okay, Director Frisbee, do you want to address him at this time, or would you rather? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who has a public comment for us? Anyone on Zoom? If so, please signify by raising your hand by using the button on the bottom. Seeing none, we'll move along. D, the consent calendar. Consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial to be acted upon by the Board of Directors at one time without discussion. If any board member, staff member, or interested person requests that an item be removed from the consent calendar, it shall be removed so that it may be acted upon separately. Does anyone wish to remove an item from the consent calendar to be acted upon separately? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
I'll move the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Joey, please.
President Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and Director Orsini.
Yes.
Okay, the consent calendar is approved. Okay, continued new business, E1. Turn the page here. Consider call for nominations for district board members to serve on the Humboldt County Local Agency Formation Commission, otherwise known as LAFCO. Board Secretary Blaine, would you please present this item?
Thank you, President Bender. LAFCO is seeking independent special district board members who are interested in serving on the Humboldt LAFCO for the 2024-28 term. LAFCO is comprised of 7 regular and 4 alternate members representing the county, cities, independent special districts, and general public. All terms are 4 years and end on June 30th. Regular meetings are held at 9 a.m. on the 3rd Wednesday of every odd-numbered month in the Humboldt County Board of Supervisors chamber, with special meetings held as needed. To nominate a board member to be a candidate for the LAFCO district member, the nomination procedures are as follows. Each district may nominate 2 persons, one for the regular member seat and one for the alternate member seat. Nominees must be board members, not staff. All nominations must be accompanied with a completed nomination form approved by a majority of your board. A candidate information form or a letter of interest and qualifications may be submitted with the nomination. This is voluntary and will be kept on file at the LAFCO offices to be made available upon request. It will not be distributed with the ballots. All nomination materials must be returned to Humboldt LAFCO. Upon receipt of nominations, LAFCO will prepare and send a ballot to each district. The ballot will state the return date and how the successful candidates will be notified. The deadline for submitting nominations is Friday, March 29th, 2024. Staff recommends the board review the information provided, discuss, take public comment, and consider a nomination to be considered for LAFCO's regular member seat and/or alternate member seat.
Okay, thank you, Joey. Is there any board discussion on this item?
No, but I'm prepared to make a motion if there is no discussion. from the public and the board.
That'll come. Does staff wish to say anything to this item?
Nothing
I was
further.
going to say, I was in the past the alternative member on LAFCO, and I would be interested in being nominated to be a regular
Okay.
member. So,
Are there any comments from the public?
Could we get clarification, alternative member or alternate member?
alternate, sorry.
Okay, yeah, I think there's a difference between.
So there's 2 positions, there's 2 positions we have to.
Okay, Tom?
Yeah, my name is Tom Boyer. I work with Pat on the Incorporation Exploration Committee, and I'm concerned because anybody that you choose would be an excellent candidate. However, the communications schedules or communication protocols in McKinleyville are scrambled at best. And we've done a lot of work on the Incorporation Committee, and I'm concerned that if we add another node to the LAFCO process that's not intimately involved in our subcommittee, that it's just going to add more confusion to the process.
I don't understand what,
So
I don't understand what you're saying.
we've had, the Incorporation Committee has had lots of input from the public, from professionals at the county, and from Cal Poly, actually. Lots of information that we're gathering. We're finding that there's a lot of misinformation floating around. And if people in the community were to go to find that information, they would go to half a dozen places already. Go to Facebook, they would go to Instagram, they would go to the websites, and so forth and so on. And so I'm afraid that if whoever is chosen doesn't come to the incorporation committee, that more misinformation is going to be spread out. So what I prefer is whoever you choose, and you can choose anybody you have on the board here, it has to be a board member. My preference would have been to have Pat on it.
It's got to be an elected official.
I know, he has to be an elected official, I understand that. But what I'm saying is, whoever you choose, I would hope that they would be intimately involved in coming to our incorporation committee meetings. Okay, and then also attend the LAFCO meetings and bring information back from the LAFCO meeting. Colette, comes to the meeting all the time, so we get a lot of information from her. But I'm afraid, I just was trying to keep corralling the information without getting it too wild. So, thanks.
Okay, thank you,
Any
Tom.
Questions?
No.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other persons wishing to comment on this item here on Zoom? Seeing none, I'll open this up to the board for nominations or people who want to serve.
So I'd like
LAFCO.
to make a motion for the permanent member, and I'd like to nominate Director Couch. Director Couch has already had a significant level of training in the special district process and had been to Sacramento quite a few times and had served as an alternate. And I
He was
think-
also a state member. He was on
and
the
he,
state
and that's,
level.
yeah, that was what I would alluded to, yeah. And so that's a pretty good level of understanding. There won't be a learning curve that has to happen. And there'll be probably other people nominated too, I know. But at this time, I'd certainly like to nominate Director Couch for the position.
I'll second that. And I have a follow-up also.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that, so knowing Troy and Deborah, they're both very good members. So I'd be happy with them too, but I can't see it. Dave's very interested in doing it. I wholeheartedly endorse him for the opportunity to be able to be voted on by the rest of the special districts for this seat. So, yeah, that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Beitman, do you have anything to add here?
No, I'm just learning. I would be curious, if not more than curious, about the alternate seat. And I don't understand the nomination process, whether it's the same for that as it is for the...
Well, a good way for you to find out would be I could nominate you for the alternate seat,
And
and
I
then you could
second
learn
that
all about
nomination.
that.
Just like that, okay. That's all right, I'll accept it.
So nomination second, we're going to vote on them both at the same time, Scott? Or
No,
one at a
no,
time,
we're going to
or-
vote on one at a time.
Okay.
That would be the right thing to do. Okay, we have a motion and a second for the regular member that we have nominated Director Couch. Would you like to call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. President Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Bale,
Yes.
and Director Orsini.
Yes.
Thanks, that motion passes. Okay, for the alternate member, Director Beitman has stepped forward.
President Bender, can I add a clarificating item? I don't, excuse me. The current alternate member is Heidi Benzonelli,
Oh,
and her term doesn't end until 2026.
Oh,
So I don't think
oh,
we
okay.
Okay, so I
Oh,
was on.
I thought it
vote
was both, so I'm sorry.
No, that's right. Yeah, good catch. Troy's and Heidi's terms don't end for 2 years.
Okay.
okay, I
It's
think
just
I
Deborah's.
remember this from last year and that we did a regular and an alternate. So, okay, all right, well,
So Jim will give you a year to study before we
Yeah.
nominate you next time.
Yeah, we'll put that on ice for a year.
Okay.
2 years.
okay, we finished that item.
I hope it stays, because I'd be happy to shadow him and learn something.
Yeah, yeah, go.
Okay, congratulations, and thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item E2, consider approval of ordinance 2024-01, amending regulations 46, 48, pertaining to the McKinleyville Community Forest, first reading. This will be presented by Parks and Recreation Director Leslie Frisbee.
With the addition of the 599-acre McKinleyville Community Forest property, the district rules and regulations require amending to include the addition of a rule addressing the formation of a McKinleyville Community Forest Standing Committee, as well as a rule addressing the guidelines for use of the community forest by the public. Rule 46 in the current rules and regulations addresses enforcement. The proposed amendment moves enforcement to Rule 48 and adds Community Forest Committee as Rule 46 and Community Forest Use and Guidelines as Rule 47. This draft was brought to the Park and Recreation Committee last month, and there was some concern brought up over Rule 47.02 as drafted in Attachment 1 regarding motorized vehicles and e-bikes. So I just want to bring that to your attention. The mountain biking community does use one class of e-bikes, and so there's concern around the language saying no e-bikes, as well as no motorized vehicles. But the amendments as drafted can be reviewed in Attachment 1. Ordinance 2024-01 can be reviewed in Attachment 2, and this is the first reading of the ordinance. Staff recommends the board review the information provided, discuss, take public comment, and approve the first reading of the Ordinance 2024-01 by title only.
Okay, thank you. Is there any board discussion?
Yeah, I have a question for staff.
Greg?
So there are concerns about the not allowing any motorized vehicles when they have like a use for electric vehicles. Could you be a little bit more specific on what the concern was from the RAC committee, please?
Because the rule as written, public recreation use of the community forest property does not include use or operation of any motorized or electric vehicle. Recreational use must be done via pedestrian use, non-motorized, non-electric bicycle or horseback. Operation of non-motorized vehicles within the community forest property must comply with existing Rule 41.04 of these rules and regulations. It's the explicit calling out of non-electric bikes. That was the concern, because there are users, like mountain bike users, who use a Class 1 pedal assist electric bicycle, and to state that it is no electric bicycles are allowed would eliminate those users from the community. if that
Or they
makes
just
sense.
have to get a bike that only pedaled?
Yes, and when we met with the mountain bike groups, a lot of those users of the Class 1 are folks with disabilities, and so it does actually get people who otherwise would normally not be able to be mountain biking out into that activity.
Okay, I have a question too. Would banning the use of say, the Class 1 bicycles fall under the ADA rules?
I don't have an answer to that question.
Okay, thanks. Dennis?
Yeah, so this creates, an interesting thing to study, but there are some specifics, and you brought up a couple of them, and the ADA was on my list here, but there's already language that's being used in some places, and there's not a consistent plan yet throughout the state. Some city parks are allowing this, and some, the BLM is not allowing this, and all that plethora in between. There will be at some time a consensus on this. The state may pass a law, or it just may be President Biden might write an executive order, who knows? Anyway, so I guess my question is, one, shouldn't we perhaps lighten up on this Class 1 pedal assisted? Or two, have some language in here that says, as protocols, state law protocols develop, this Rule 47.02 may be modified. I'm just, so.
President Bender, well, after, go ahead.
Go ahead, Director Whiteman.
I've had a number of discussions with people who are predominantly Arcata Community Forest users, recreational users, both bicycling and, bicycling, hiking, and horseback riding. The impression that they give me is that Arcata have been unable to differentiate or separate between the low-powered level 1 e-bikes and the other e-bikes, some of which are capable of 50 miles an hour. And what it appears is that the city of Arcata has finally stepped back to the base position on that and said, and they have posted signage in the community forest prohibiting any form of e-bike. That, you guys, I'm seeing heads shake the other way. This is what I'm being told. There are signs that say no e-bikes. No, as of yesterday, there seemed to be. Okay. So my suggestion is that the committee can always loosen a rule, and it's very difficult to tighten a rule. And we're going to be better off starting at a base point that says no, and then begin to work out step by step the exceptions to that as a process.
So my comment was exactly what Director Brightman just said, so I don't need time to talk now.
Yeah. And mine were just more, what do we think about it? I'm not going to write either one of them, so.
I think it's kind of funny how we're all on the same page here in our line of thinking there, especially the part about it's harder to tighten up the rule than loosen it. So, okay. Is there any more discussion from the board? Does staff have any comment? We'll open it to the general public for comments.
When you start talking, I will.
Members of the board, my name is Sean Fife. I'm an Adventures Edge team rider, specialized ambassador. Currently on the
Speaking
board.
that we can't hear you.
It's like, I think it's on.
There you go. Yeah, because the people online can't hear you.
Got it.
Unless you're talking in the microphone.
Well, I can't either.
So I'm also on the board for Humboldt Skate Park Collective, and we've started a new partnership with Two Feathers, and it's the Mountain Bike Tribal Trail Alliance. We spend all of our time in the woods with the youth, and I'm also the chapter lead for Soldiers on Single Track, a veterans race and ride group for disabled veterans. A lot of the veterans who access our trails and trails across our country do so with Class 1 e-bikes. It's super easy to regulate if people understand the difference between the classes of bikes. I brought some charts from IMBA, which is a national standard that has Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3 e-bikes specified for everybody to go and review. These are the standards people use, BLM and different property owners. I'm currently working with BLM down in Shelter Cove to help change their standards, because currently e-bikes, Class 1, or any of them, are not allowed. After speaking with the land managers down there, they realized that they weren't getting the users on their trails that they wanted, or the recreation in their area, And they asked me how they could change that. And I said, well, half of your user group are currently using Class 1 e-bikes. Once they realized that, and I explained to them the difference between Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3, they're right now doing a study to change it for Shelter Cove. They realized that there's a very simple standard that everybody's applying, landowners across the country, and IMBA has laid it all out for us. There will always be people who use non-classified e-bikes that have no control, no regulation, and will trespass on our managed property. But those are not the responsible users that we want to keep off of our property. We're trying to be inclusive, and we want to include all recreational users of our forest. It's a community forest, it's multi-use. We want hikers, we want equestrians, we want mountain bikers, we want all these people out there having a good time. Some of these mountain bikers just do not have the fitness, or they're injured from service to their country, and this will be the only way they can access our forest. I know this because I take these people out. I also race without electric assist, so I understand, the fitness involved in that. But some veterans will never be there. Again, they're missing limbs, and when they are on an e-bike, they can kick my butt up hills. So I just want to be inclusive in our forest, and I brought some information for you guys to study if you want to learn about different e-bikes.
Ask him a question, Scott.
Okay. Director Mayo, go ahead.
Come on back.
Sean?
Yeah, so this is a process, and I think we're going to start somewhere. Doesn't mean that's where it's going to end up completely. But I would ask if you would, as soon as you get some language from any of the other agencies, especially State Park, where they have made a change and they have some really concise language, which they will, could you bring that to us? Because we're going to need to, if we do this inclusion, we're going to need to be able to have the correct language too. And if it's already done, then we don't have to create the wheel. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, that should be super easy for me to be able to share. Paul down at Shelter Cove, he's the land manager down there. He's working on the study right now because we're doing an event in collaboration with JIPO. So as soon as I have that information, I can share it with the board.
Very good.
I've got a comment. Yeah, thank you. So my feeling is that we have this verbiage ready to go for the rules and regulations, and staff has worked really hard on this. So I'd highly recommend that we move forward with accepting this and improving this language, with the caveat that, and I very much appreciate what you brought in, and the most relevant thing that you said to me in your testimony was related to, and my concern is there's some e-bikes that are just as powerful as a four-stroke right now, and when I thought about e-bikes on our trails, that's what I went to automatically, but we can't punish people that would use a Class 1 bike on our trails because people might outlaw more powerful bikes. But we're also going to have to consider how we're going to enforce that. So these are all things that will have to be worked through. And I don't want to put this on the table or shelf it until we work through that. That's why I'm going to move that we accept this for right now, but that we keep the consideration open for, at some point, if it fits within staff, the RAC, and our board's policies, that we would consider maybe Class 1 bikes.
And perhaps some state law mandate about ADA.
Well, yeah, and then if it becomes a state thing, then we're pretty much stuck with that, but.
I mean, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
But I would second your, if that was a motion, I'll second it, because I think we have to crawl before we can walk, and then after we get walking, maybe we'll start jogging with you.
Yeah, and thank you very much for bringing this to us. I very much appreciate it, for opening my eyes to an alternative of what I'd already my mind was closed until you talked, so thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Just review those charts. It'll actually kind of explain it a lot better. There's a lot of information there. Yes, sir.
Okay, Director Byman?
I'm a member of the Mounted Assistance Unit and equestrian volunteer, basically docents in Humboldt Redwood State Park. We will have a meeting of the Mounted Assistance Unit tomorrow, and let me assure you that I will raise the question as to whether the State Parks Administration has come up with a regulation that permits e-bikes on trails and contains an enforcement mechanism. To my knowledge, and it's out of date since the last meeting, which was last fall, there was no such ordinance within Humboldt Redwood State Park, and they're part of State Parks Administration. And I'm more than willing to be corrected on that, and I will ask tomorrow.
Okay.
And thank you for your input.
Is McKinleyville Community Forest going to be a California State Park, or is it a, okay, so,
We're looking for a model.
understood. So currently, it seems that all land managers use the model that's appropriate for their user groups. And this has been in my experience working with multiple different land users. So California State Parks isn't going to be the same as McKinleyville Community Forest, or the same as Bureau of Land Management. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And thanks for the information.
Yes, sir. Is there anything else from the board?
Are there any other questions for him? Okay, if you can step up to the mic and make your comment, you'll be heard.
Actually, President Bender, Kevin Creed has had his hand up for quite a while as well.
No, I'm sorry. We'll go to Zoom right now for Mr. Creed.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm very interested in this. I'm a longtime cyclist. I own a Class 1 gravel bike. I ride in the Arcata Forest. And, excuse me, I'm glad you're having this discussion, but I want to make a few key points that I think need to be addressed before MCSD finds that landing spot, whatever it is. So my concern is I've seen other areas like Mid-Peninsula open space in the Bay Area that have just blanketly prohibited e-bikes with no stated rationale as to why. My opinion is just because a bike has an electric motor in it doesn't make it inherently bad. The concern is a lot more about rider behavior. And also the underlying concerns are, one, what damage, if any, as in evidence-based studies, do these bikes pose to the trails that regular mountain bike users, non-motorized, would not? You know, what would be the difference there? The other, I think, is a legitimate concern, of course, as safety or perceived safety. And again, that goes back much more to rider behavior. So moving forward on this, I think it's very important to, one, in the language of whichever regulation you select, use the existing language that defines Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3, and be clear in your statements for each class whether they're allowed or not. You also see in parks that allow mountain bike and trail use, particularly for some descents, they post speed limits. And again, like in Mid-Peninsula open space in the Bay Area, they issue tickets if you exceed that limit. And I agree with that. I think not posing a risk to other cyclists, people on horses, pedestrians is important. So I would really hate, and my opinion is I disagree with the approach of just banning them now with not any real evidence as to why. My concern is I would see it as
Okay,
harder
thank you,
to
Mr. Creed. Your
peel.
3 minutes are up.
Okay, sorry, to peel back. So a number of issues, and I take it the rules are on the McKinleyville, the MCSD website, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I can find
They're in
that
our board
draft
packet.
language. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other public comment to this? Twyla?
Twyla Sanchez. I just have a question with this motorized, you're just speaking about bicycles, is that correct? I mean, it's not going, I'm thinking of a motorized electric wheelchair. That would be okay. But you're just talking about bicycles.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
My mic is still on. So I'm part of the Parks and Recreation Advisory. I'm one of the individuals that brought it up at Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. So we got our first look at this at our last meeting. Normally, and I know that we need to get something in place right away, and that was my concern at the meeting, is normally we get to look at something like this, especially concerning recreation, and make a recommendation to the board. So we didn't get that opportunity as far as the Parks and Rec group, but I understand the need to get something in place because the community forest is ours now. So don't get me wrong. I would have liked to have had the opportunity to vent this prior to it coming to you guys, especially on the e-bikes. And the question actually came up in the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board about motorized wheelchairs, et cetera. And when you say no motorized, to me, her question that she was asking falls within that it's a motorized vehicle. And I don't know what the ADA rules are, but that question also came up and we didn't have time to really look into it. So my biggest concern is I'd like to be making a recommendation to you. My recommendation is Class 1 bikes should be allowed, wheelchairs should be allowed that are electric, you know, to allow our community to be out there. So this is Charlie talking as Recreation Advisory Board, but also as a recreation person using your forest.
Okay, thank you. I'm fairly certain that the motorized wheelchairs and the scooters like that are classified as medical assistive devices and wouldn't fall under this category.
I think that's correct.
Okay.
It's on.
Oh, I had that timer. Oh, it's on? Yeah. Hi, so my name is Lyle, and I use the forest pretty much every day, especially in the summer. He was under the impression that you can't use e-bikes at all in Arcata, and that's not correct. We can easily get photos of the signs differentiating, like more or less showing in picture the difference between something like this. This is an electric motorcycle, basically. This is going to be falling into your class 3 and higher. These can do those speeds that you're talking about, 50 miles an hour up to 70 miles an hour. And this is kind of what they look like. More or less what I ride, which is a class 1, you wouldn't tell the difference. You know, it has pedals. It doesn't have, you know, if you have to pedal to have throttle. And they are government limited by the federal government at 20 miles an hour. So that's the, you know, the misconception when we turn on the news and somebody's saying, oh, somebody got ran over by an electric bike, it most likely was what they call a Ciron, which is a electric motorcycle. You know, like, so you'd have to, you know, electric bikes are okay in the Arcata Community Forest, but electric motorcycles are not, because it is not a off-highway use vehicle. You know, like in Samoa Dunes, there is OHV, off-highway vehicle. That's where something you would ride a electric motorbike. So I just think that, you know, publicly there is a huge, you know, misconception of our mind because we're, you know, watching the news, which is not the best place to get information like this of, you know. So I think educating ourselves first and then voting later is the best way of doing things, because, you know, it's always hard to get rights back, and, you know, if we give up rights now, then it's harder to get them back later. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak?
I have a written letter from the public.
Okay.
It's from Jane Cusick, who is also a member of the Park and Recreation Committee, but she submitted it via the public comments section of our website. Hello, I have a comment on the proposed regulation of e-bikes in the McKinleyville Community Forest. Many local folks use electric bicycles in a reasonable manner. The most common way is with a pedal assist option that is only used occasionally. This allows riders to primarily use the pedals to propel themselves, but have the option of using the assist feature when going up an incline, for instance. This is very helpful for seniors and/or folks who have knee issues. Accessibility should be encouraged for use of the community forest. Also, e-bikes are used by some responsible mountain bikers, like the ones who have been helping with trail development and maintenance in the forest. There may be ways for the future McKinleyville Community Forest Committee to figure out how to ensure the safety and accessibility of the biking trails. To start off with, the following proposed regulation is premature, in my opinion, and may actually be counterproductive. Rule 4702, motorized and electric vehicle use prohibited. Public recreation use of the community forest property does not include use or operation of any motorized or electric vehicle. Recreational use must be done via pedestrian use, non-motorized, non-electric bicycle, or horseback. Operation of non-motorized vehicles within community forest property must comply with the existing Rule 41.04 of these rules and regulations. Why not say, for now, that some e-bike use will be restricted? There are different classes of e-bikes, for instance. Some indeed can go too fast, like the Class 3. Also, maybe the committee can discuss having special trails dedicated for Class 1 or 2 e-bikes. Thank you, Jane Cusick of McKinleyville.
Okay, thank you.
Scott, I got another comment.
Greg?
Yeah, so if we approve this verbiage the way it is right now, we're in compliance with the whole rules and regulations, because we have Rule 4104, which prohibits the use of motorized vehicles, correct? So if we modified this, we also have to go back in and modify Rule 4104 too, correct? Okay, so there's a lot more to this. There's a lot more moving parts to this than just adding Class E1 bikes to this rule, because our rules and regulations for parks and recreation state that there will be no motorized vehicles allowed on district property for recreational use.
I think, so I maybe misspoke when I said compliance, because there's a difference. There's a distinction between motorized and electric.
Mm-hmm.
And so our rules and regs, it just explicitly state motorized. So we don't call out electric vehicles in
But
any
an
of our
electric
other.
bike has a motor.
Okay, it's up for
Yeah.
interpretation.
Yeah, so, Dennis, speak into the microphone.
That fits into the legal parameter of motorized.
Well,
That's, I don't know.
for me,
I'm
for
just-
me, right now, I want to move this along. I want to get staff, get this rule approved so that it's not a draft rule, so that we can so that we have some enforcement power and for everything that's in this, not only the electric vehicle or electric bike thing, with the caveat that staff will start working on updating or considering updating per our general manager, taking into consideration the fact that we might allow class 1 bikes in the community forest. But then we probably end up having to allow them on all our other trails too. So, like I said, I'm going to make a motion right now to approve per staff recommendation.
And I'm going to second that with the statement to everybody that if you've been around this district for any length of time, you know our rules and protocols and policies are in constant flux. So, you know, don't think this is an absolute set in cement that can never be altered, because it can. But we need to get this job that we're doing right now done.
Are you okay with staff recommendations, the way it's written?
Yes. Can I chime in on a couple?
Oh, sure.
You may.
So a couple things. One, for the first reading of this, we can make edits and then bring it back for the second reading, and then adopt it that way. You could direct staff to look at edits that they want to bring back for the second reading. One of the reasons Section 47 in this is so short is because really the focus of this is to establish the Community Forest Committee. And all these items that are being discussed tonight will be discussed by the Community Forest Committee, who is going to have representatives of, you know, the horseback riders, forestry hikers, mountain bikers, potentially e-bike users, and that committee then should be gathering information from the entire community to be crafting our forest management plan. And so it gets input from the entire community on what should or shouldn't be allowed in the community forest. So all of these things we're not going to be bringing these things back to have them discussed in front of the board. We're going to have them discussed by the community to bring them back to the board.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there's a motion and a second to accept this as written.
Can I don't know if I am allowed to make this request, but I support the acceptance of the first reading, but I would like to come back with edits, with some explicit language, because I do think it's important, me as a community member, also a Parks and Rec professional, I do think it's important to be inclusive and create an inclusive environment for our recreational spaces. So I would like the opportunity to come back with different language after having gotten all this feedback. There was some urgency to drafting this because we want to put signs up because it's open and there's like nothing. And so it was rushed, and I can own that, and I would like to bring edits to the second reading.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, those are kind of my thoughts too. This is the first reading. We have a lot to go. Between now and the second reading, we're going to have more input from Mr. Beitman after his meeting tomorrow, and certainly other people are going to be having feedback between now and then and do a little bit of homework. I know I will. And thank you for this. And we can revisit this at the second reading. Is that appropriate?
Absolutely.
Greg?
Not only that, but I mean, we modify rules and regulation rules often, so it's not like once it's on the books that it can't be modified. And I expect that this will be one of those things that.
I expect it as well. Okay, there's a motion and a second. So, Jerry, would you call the roll, please?
Can I get clarification on the motion?
Greg,
The
you
motion's
made the
per
motion.
staff recommendation.
And a second.
President Bitter,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and Director Orsini.
Yes.
Can I
Okay.
make a statement just for the public and who may or may not be aware? This is not officially a rule until after the second reading. So
Yeah, we encourage you to come back next month for the second reading. We'll have more information and possibly different opinions. Different words.
Actually, I think it would be better if this is vetted through the RAC committee.
Oh, the rackle, okay. Well, it will be.
yeah, it'll be on the agenda for the Park and Recreation Committee
they
this
meet
month
before
with
we-
different language
yeah,
and
I
a
think
recommendation.
We should refer them to go to the RAC committee.
Okay. You'll take care of that, Charlie?
Yeah.
Get them all on the same page with that? Okay, great.
Because as Pat said, we want a recommendation. We don't want to be, thanks, James. We don't want to be we don't want to be creating the sausage here. We want a recommendation and have the sausage pre-made before it gets here on this,
And then we'll decide whether to boil it or fry it.
yes.
Either way. Okay, well, this is done. Okay, item E3, review information for the draft capital improvement plan for the operational funds, water, wastewater, street lights, fiscal year 24-25. Director Henry?
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for coming.
So I wasn't intentionally giving you a sign. I was getting ready to use it, so I was turning it on, but it worked.
Yeah, it did.
The district debt management policy is that the projects that exceed $500,000 be funded through debt. Other capital improvement projects that do not meet the $500,000 threshold are funded as pay-go with regular operating funds. At the end of 2021, early 22, the district sold certificates of participation to fund upcoming water and sewer capital improvement projects. As of the end of 2023, the remaining balance of the water system series of certificates was $4,358,076.35. In the wastewater series B certificates was $3,820,000. This debt will be used to fund upcoming capital improvement projects that exceed the $500,000 threshold. The water projects that exceed $500,000 threshold in fiscal year 24-25 CIP include the 4.5 million gallon water tank construction, the painting of Norton Water Tank 2A, as well as the water main rehab projects. The water main rehab 1.8 million value is an annual set aside to build reserves to fund the rehab of the water main distribution system. There are no water main replacement projects planned for 24-25. District staff are in the process of planning for the next rehab project. The 4.5 million gallon tank project has $9 million projected in the CIP for 24-25. Majority of the $9 million will be funded by Cal OES FEMA grants. As of March 2023, there remains $7,187,214 left in the FEMA grant. This will also be supplemented with the North Coast Resource Partnership Grant of $879,209 for a total of $8,066,423 in grant funding, leaving $900, have you guys figured the math out yet? $933,577 the district will need to fund. We currently have $4,358,076 left in the water certificates that will fund that $933,000. The Series A certificates will also fund the estimated $750,000 needed to paint the Norton water tank. This will leave approximately $2.6 million in bond funding that will be used, turning the page, to fund the McCluskey tank replacement and Mad River water main crossing projects in the in the following years. The only sewer project that exceeds the 500,000 threshold is the sewer main rehab project. The next fiscal year has 1.5 set aside for these projects. There will likely be a sewer lining project that will fund in 24-25. It likely will not be 1.5 million worth of sewer lining, which will allow the excess funds to continue to be set aside to fund sewer rehab projects in the future. The remaining 3.8 million of the Series B certificates will be used to fund the Fisher Lift Station upgrade, as long as the highway undercrossing projects in the future fiscal years. I also want to call out on the CIP spreadsheet that was provided in here that I had some yellow highlight areas. Those were me being colorful, but they were my markers that I put in there for when I'm in draft mode, so that I can have my discussions with the general manager on things that change. So I just didn't remove my little markers that remind me to talk to the general manager about them. They will be removed off the final. They're just there as a for me to remember to talk to Pat about those.
In the different shade gray ones also?
The different shade gray are the ones that are bluish gray, or like the grant funded ones.
Okay.
So
Oh,
if there's
okay,
a
so
grant,
those do have-
if granting is involved, they have a blue highlight on them. If they're green, that's what it is. And the yellow ones, I forgot to change my cells back to green, but when I go through my draft, I turn those yellow for when I have my meeting with the general manager. I discuss things about those.
Okay, thank you.
So, James, if I understand it, we shouldn't attach any special significance to the yellow highlighting on the...
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Other than looking at me and asking me why I did not turn those back to green.
That's okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any board comments? No board comments?
I was going to wait and see, go last. I do have a comment. So, James, question, we have $750,000 allotted for the recoating of Norton tank. The last time we did a tank project where we recoated, did those costs involve repairs, or was that just purely to recoat the tank?
So last time, the 550-ish, 600 area is where it's at. We had to replace the rafters in the last one. I don't know if you guys recall that whole thing that came back. So now it's set in there in case that comes up again, that it's not like a budget modification to replace rafters. It's hard to tell until they get the sanding down and everything up there. We are going to look at the vents. I'll pull the center vent off and see what condition we have. Matter of fact, one of the tank companies is going to actually come and look at it with us. But no, it's hard to tell until we actually get in there. So we have that buffer to take care of any of the rafter, building that halo, they called it.
Right.
And replacing all of that. So that's that. To answer your question, repairs and painting.
Okay, so that's repairs and painting, not just painting. I was going to say, because I remember when it used to cost $200,000 to paint a tank, and I was going to say, oh, up to $750 now. Wow. Anyway, so the only thing that I had to say is looking at what things are costing now is that, and it's not prudent to do it right now, because we've basically predicated a rate study on PAYGO being 500 grand, but it might be in the future when we do the next rate study that we might modify our expenditure control policy to maybe bump PAYGO, considering how much the cost of construction has increased in the last 3 years since 2020. It might be worthwhile to consider raising PAYGO, but like I said, I don't think it's prudent to do it now because we have a whole rate study predicated on $500,000 PAYGO. That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Is there any more board commentary? Staff? General public? Zoom? Nobody. Okay. Well, thank you for presenting that. We'll move on to item E4.
Yeah, just one other thing. Yeah, thanks, James and staff for going through this. I remember how much work is involved, and I just want to commend our staff for the thoughtful process of projecting out 10 years worth of work to keep our capital, our systems, our capital in operating, and also preempting maybe requirements, regulatory requirements that would cause us to have to upgrade and not having to either scrounge money or defer maintenance to be able to afford to keep up with the regulatory requirements. So thank you very much. I know that it's a very long and very thoughtful process to be able to put together a good solid CIP. So thank you to the staff and James. Or management and James.
James, I want to echo what Greg has just said in terms of thank you for the work that you and your staff have done here. The clarity with which you have projected a picture of what needs to be done and what is likely to be done from now into the future is really commendable. Likewise, the clarity with which you have laid out the sources of funding and the way in which those sources will be used is also quite commendable. It helped me to look at the entire capital improvement process as a complete picture, and I'm really grateful for that, and I just want to thank you for it.
Thank you. And Pat deserves all the credit on the staff write-up part of going through that, because that was spinning my head. But yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. That's what I wanted to say, but you did it a lot more coherently.
Okay. Item E4, consider joining the Aqua, Association of California Water Agencies Coalition, supporting Aqua-sponsored AB 2257. Pat?
Thank you, President Binder. Aqua is urging members to join a coalition to support AB 2257, which would help member agencies defend against Proposition 218 lawsuits by requiring litigants to participate and raise specific objections before a public hearing. AB 2257 builds on the strict procedural rate-making requirements of Prop 218 by creating a robust public process that facilitates dialogue, transparency, and the opportunity to resolve issues and avoid costly litigation. Authored by Assemblymember Lori Wilson and sponsored by Aqua, the bill would bring to light all possible complaints and provide an opportunity to resolve a dispute and avoid litigation altogether. It would build on the success of Aqua-sponsored Senate Bill 323, which created a 120-day statute of limitations for filing lawsuits against water and sewer rates through the Proposition 218 process. This will also help to eliminate the potential retroactive invalidation effects of Initiative 1935 if it passes. I don't know if the board remembers, but Initiative 1935 is eligible for the November 2024 statewide ballot. This measure, previously Initiative 21-0042A1, would revise the state constitution to significantly undermine local control and the ability of local governments to provide services and infrastructure. The passage of Initiative 1935 would invalidate any revenue measures passed since January 1st, 2022 that were put on the local ballot by citizen initiatives requiring a majority voter approval. The initiative would also repeal all taxes that do not contain a sunset. This would have had a tremendous fiscal impact to the district. The passage of AB 2257 would help prevent frivolous lawsuits enacted as a result of Initiative 1935. So staff recommends that the board review the information provided and consider authorizing the general manager to sign on to join the Aqua Coalition supporting Aqua-sponsored AB 2257 on behalf of the district.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Members of the board, is there any discussion? Greg?
Yeah, just for the record, CSDA has a support 3 position on this on AB 2257. So I think it's consistent with both of the associations that we belong to that, to go ahead and work forward with this. I see a lot of benefit for us. I think one of the worst parts about the initiative is the fact that it basically goes retroactive back, as Pat said, back to 2000. So even our last rate study that we did could be, if that initiative goes through in November, could be held, and protested, and us have to basically go back and reimburse if we were found that it didn't meet the criteria. So I think this is very important. Hopefully, it's not going to be necessary, and people aren't going to vote for this when it's on the ballot, or aren't going to vote for the initiative when it's on the ballot. But who knows? We'll see. I did not.
Dennis?
I didn't want to be a motion hog.
I'm sure Dennis wants to speak on it.
I'm all for it.
All for it.
Yeah, all for it. And,
Any other board members wish to make a comment on this? I recognize that it does build on that, the Senate Bill 323 that was going on in 2021. And I remember our discussion about that. And so if that just strengthens that, then I'm for it. So is there any comment from other staff members? Members of the public? Including on Zoom? I see none. I'll call for a motion if one wasn't made.
I'll move per
Greg?
staff recommendation.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Would you please call the roll?
President Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
Director Orsini.
Aye.
Okay, and that passes. Okay, section F, active committee reports, Park and Rec Committee, Bender Beitman. I have nothing to add to Director Frisbee's report. B, Area Fund, John Colstead, Director Bender. And we did not meet, however, they are planning on distributing funds for this cycle, and I'll likely have a report next month. C, Redwood Region Economic Development Commission, Director Beitman.
Redwood Region Economic Development Commission met on February 26th, last Monday. The agenda included a presentation of the audit for fiscal year 2022-2023, presented by Harshball and Company. That audit was unqualified in every respect, basically a totally 100% clean audit, and the board voted to accept it. I don't know how they could not accept it, but they voted to accept it. The other one, which is interesting, and I think it is interesting to this board as well as to the REDEC board, is the position letter of they created a position letter regarding the AT&T proposal to the California Public Utilities Commission to cease their role as the carrier of last resort. Basically, if they are permitted to cease that role, there will be no carrier of last resort, and people in outlying areas especially who rely on, shall we say, antiquated copper wire hookups for their telephone will be basically without telephone service. And so there is a great concern that if AT&T, which is the only entity which is providing this last resort service to outlying communities, is allowed to cease their role as a carrier of last resort, there is nobody to replace them. And so the REDEC board, shall we say, originated a position letter that basically opposes the proposal by AT&T to cease their role as a carrier of last resort. And I think that was the only really significant piece of work that was taken up at this last meeting.
That was very significant. Dennis?
And I concur with their assessment and would like to suggest, if you wanted to think about it, it might be appropriate for our board to also support this. I'll leave it up to Pat to think about it, and if you think it's something that is within our parameter to do, I would like to bring it back and perhaps,
I think it's outside our jurisdiction. That's my opinion.
yeah, I don't know how many people we have in our services district that might fall into that or not. But I support it, but whatever is the will of the board.
No, it's
I agree, but I think it's just like the health insurance thing, it's not.
Yeah, it doesn't go along with our mission. Although I would encourage everyone that can hear my voice to get onto the CPUC's website and put in your own public comment. You can do it online. You can even do it anonymously, and voice your opinion that way. And it'll be heard and counted.
Hey, Scott, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
So, what are you hearing at the senior center about this?
I'm not hearing a thing at the senior center about it.
No, really? Well, it's because they don't know about it, or?
Well, these.
Because
well,
I know
these
my
seniors all
mother-in-law,
have
I know my mother-in-law doesn't have a cell phone, and if she loses her copper, she won't have any way to, she won't use a cell phone, so.
All I know is the people in Bloxburg, Alder Point, and all those people are just furious because if they lose the twisted pair, they can't get out in the winter, even with their vehicles from some places. People that live in like Larrabee Valley, for example, at high elevation, under the shadow of Black Lassick, they're hung. I mean,
And it doesn't have to be that far out. I give you a personal example. I have a landline, and many times my cell phone goes out when the power goes out, and that landline is my way to communicate. So. Closer?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a landline, and a lot of times when the power goes out, cell phone goes out, the router goes out, et cetera, and that landline is very important to us. And, we're not way out in the boondocks, but I guarantee you there's lots of folks in that same situation.
okay, I have a comment too. The earthquake 2 Christmases ago took out landlines took out cell phone service for people here, even in town.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah, every time we have an earthquake, everybody gets on their cell phones to call and tell everybody back east they're okay, and you're lucky if you can text, let alone make a cell phone call.
Yeah,
So
so much-
landlines is all you got.
so much for more bandwidth. Okay, anyway, we'll move right along. McKinleyville Senior Center Board, that would be me. And we're just cranking right along. We're getting ready to have our spring fling open house and plant sale on March 25th. We're getting the carpets cleaned the week before, so the district will hear about that. And we are training 3 new hostesses right now, one of which already has keys, and another one will probably get their keys next week, and things are looking pretty good. And everybody's having fun and pretty healthy right now. So we're just, very, very grateful that we have our family in the other room there that we get to see all the time. Okay, that's my report there. Audit and Finance Committee, Director Orsini or Jim?
Yeah, we met on the 22nd for audit committee, February 22nd. And that's to basically cover the single audit. That's a requirement of, if you get over, $750,000 in federal grant funding, you have to conduct a single audit. So there's some some past grant funding that was, that showed up, so I think, I don't know if we've gotten any clarification on that yet, but we're in the process of finishing up getting clarification on that before the audit's brought to the board for approval. Have we gotten any?
We have not gotten clarification. We need clarification from the State Water Resources Control Board, and we haven't gotten it yet. There is a possibility, if we do not get an extension, that we might have to do a special board meeting, but we'll, of course, reach out to you.
Okay. Is that it? Do you have anything to add, Jim?
No, I think Greg said it very well. Basically, we finished our meeting with the, gee, we have more work to do.
Okay.
That was the conclusion.
All right. Employee Negotiations Committee, Director Couch?
We did not meet.
Did not meet. Kinleyville Municipal Advisory Committee, we did meet, and I'll report out on that. Absent from the McMack meeting on February 28th was Director Orsini and Chair Lisa Dugan. The representative from Arcata Fire reported, and the main thing that came down from that was that Chief McDonald is retiring, and Chris Emmons is stepping into his place as new chief in July. And they're busy with inspections of apartments, hotels, and schools, catching up on all that, and they're starting a new newsletter. The Sheriff's Office checked in, and they reported that reports were down, but arrests were up. And
And how long were jail stays?
I just thought that sounded funny when he said that.
That is fun.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, yeah, they presented on, there was Mary Burke was there in person, Almy Allen joined via Zoom, and they made a little presentation on the Botawat estuary restoration signage dedication and how the sign came to be, and he had a PowerPoint presentation, and it showed, gosh, I forget what his name was now. Help me with this. The artist who did the metal work.
Nick
Okay.
Kieselhorst.
No, the one that did
The one that did the metal work. It showed him in the shop. Nick. Okay, it showed, he showed that, and it was a very interesting PowerPoint. Okay, they presented their quarterly financial report, and it was generally a pretty quick meeting. And so that's about all I have for that.
There's also another hand raised on
Okay.
Zoom.
So just a quick question. There was a long discussion from the sheriff on theft from the stores, from picking up from the stores. And the consensus was that the store owners need to report that back more regularly to the sheriff if it happens, because sometimes the store owners are just ignoring it, saying it's going to cost of doing business. The point is that if the sheriff doesn't know about it, he can't allocate more resources to it.
Okay. Thank you. A member on Zoom, Susan? Does that say Susan?
Yes.
Okay, I recognize Susan on Zoom. Susan, are you there? Okay. She may have raised her hand inadvertently. Okay, Ad hoc Committee, Community Forest, Director Mail.
Wow. Well, because I'm not going to be able to give that.
You didn't take notes during the meeting?
No.
I did.
I shouldn't take notes. But we had part of it here tonight. We're working
Hey, Dennis.
So what I'll say, and hopefully Greg's got, I'll let Greg do the notes. The part of the community forest that I am going to talk about a little bit is that when I was on my lobbying trip to DC the last 2 weeks, I took a very well-prepared proposal from our general manager and Leslie and passed it out all over the Hill to about 100 representatives. 22 I spoke to, and we're asking for support to develop our management plan, our forestry plan, our trail plan, our parking, on and on. And it was amazingly well received. So I'll let Greg talk about the actual meeting that we had.
Thanks, yeah. We did talk about the new modifications to the rules and regulations. We also talked about staffing in the strategy and also names. When we open up the request for qualifications for staffing the ad hoc committee for the community forest. Also talked about the gates that were, Green Diamond helped with gates, installed some gates, internal gates. I guess if you go on Google Maps, the McKinleyville Community Forest is actually identified. I don't know that it's that the information provided is 100% accurate, but if you use Google Maps, you can actually see the boundaries for the community forest. And that's about all I had. I don't know if I missed anything, or if there's anything important that you.
Well, I think I am going to circle back. One thing I wanted to talk about when we were talking about the community forest was, and we got derailed on the electric bike business, but you know, one of the main thrusts of the new rules and reg is to set up the community forest committee, and it lays out the potential members of the committee. So I'm asking the board and the community, if there are people that you feel like really meet those criteria, please provide names to Leslie and I, and we'll put all the application up on our website, et cetera, but we would like to, direct email applications to people that we would like to be on the committee too, so please do provide that contact information.
Okay, legislative and regulatory reports. Okay, are there any
Go ahead. No, I got a long one, so.
No, go ahead. I don't have anything. I'll see.
Boy, there's a lot going on, and it's all good. Now, a lot of the legislation isn't good, and the things we got to fight over aren't so good, but, so first I want to talk about some good news. Special District Grant Accessibility Act that's been sponsored by several groups, CSDA. Kyle wrote a lot of this language, that it was with
Yeah,
NSDC.
it's the Special District National Coalition.
Yes. And that bill went to the House today, and it has a number now, HR 7525. And we all want to support that. And it is to specifically give special districts of a size and type a legal standing that we have not enjoyed as a standalone governmental entity.
Yeah. On the national level.
On the national level, yes. And that would mean that, and it's going to coincide with another part of this that's going on now. There's too many omnibus bills that are for water infrastructure. The first half of one is going to the Hill, probably went today as well. I haven't heard back yet. And that is to provide specifically money to the state revolving fund. You know, every 2 years, Congress pulls up these 12 bills that they're the appropriation bills, and they, you know, have some money, some not, some more, some, you know, all of that, okay? And as that process moves forward, if this bill passes, a portion of that money will be available for special districts that we can go directly to and put our asks in for. We don't have to partner with the counties or the cities or anybody else. So that's a big deal for us. We've been working on that ever since I've been on this board. And I know, Greg, you guys have, at special districts have worked really, really hard on this. And so anyway, that's a good deal. Then there's also time right now to discuss or put in potential bids on fiscal year 25 earmark requests. And we have never asked for an earmark from the McKinleyville Community Services District. And as I spoke to, and now I'm going to say, I spoke to Darrell Issa, Congressman Huffman, Senator Butler's staff, Senator Padilla's staff, Doug LaMalfa personally, Jim Acosta personally, Mike Thompson's staffs, Tim Scott personally, Marsha Blackburn personally, Ted Cruz personally, Marjorie Taylor Greene personally, Elise Stefanik personally, Tom McClintock personally, Dave Valdeo personally, and Ken Calvert, who's a really good supporter of California Water. He's a Democrat, but he's a really good supporter of California Water. Anyway, and I gave them our ask, and they all liked it. Now, you might say, why did I speak to some of these people and not our direct representatives? Because when these things go to committees, you've got to have people on both sides to help you. If you don't, they don't get out of committee. They don't go to markup. And so that's really important. And of course, the thing that I'm asking isn't necessarily so incumbent on that. Earmarks are designed to give individual congressmen and senators an ability to get something done without having to, sell their next born or something to get it, in the negotiations. So anyway, I was greatly helped in D.C. By Jason Browdy, who is a partner of, help me with his name, I can never get his name right.
Jaime Rojas.
Jaime Rojas, and they have presented to us some potential possibility to do consulting for us, and we've talked about that a little bit. And it's time. It's time for us to make that jump. These guys were amazing out there in D.C. The contacts, the ability to stay on top of things, weaving through the maze. I work pretty hard and I'm pretty aggressive, but if you got to know that place a lot better than I do to be even more effective, and we've been effective. So what I want to suggest to this board is that you entertain letting Pat negotiate with Jaime and Jason to come up with a possible program for us to work with them and have them do some heady lobbying for us, because we're looking at efforts to bring in millions of dollars into our forest project. And so anyway, I think it's time for us to really consider that, and I'd like the board to let Pat sit down, negotiate with these guys, and then bring us back a potential offer. So, anything you want to say about it, Pat?
Thanks, Director Mayo. So last year at Aqua, Director Orsini and Director Mayo met with Jaime. I don't know if you met with Jason or not,
Yes.
but.
Yeah, it was a CSDA.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Yeah. Same difference.
And so after that meeting, I reached out to him and talked to him, and yeah, they impressed me as well. I asked them for a fee and a proposal, and they came back and said, well, it's about $50,000 a year. And I was like, well, okay, I don't have that in my budget, so, maybe we'll look at next year. So I know they'd be more than happy to work with us. I can try to drive them down from that $50,000 number and see where they
I
end
can
up.
tell you, Pat, that they are very, very keen on helping our district, and they have expressed to me that they're willing to do some considerable negotiation.
I have a question. Could we negotiate a fee with them that they get a better, the more money they bring us in earmarks, they get more money, they get a higher fee or something like that?
You can ask them.
I don't know the answer to that, Greg, but that makes perfect sense to me. So, whatever.
Yeah, just some sort of performance thing. So that way we're not paying them $50,000 unless they get us money. And they will too. These guys are sharp. I really like everybody I know, every special district that has them on retainer
Love 'em.
has told me that it's been worth the investment.
Yeah, and a hyperbole deal in this, and I know, for whatever it's worth. We went to a famous Chinese restaurant in Vienna, right across, just on the outskirts of D.C. over to Vienna. And this is the Chinese restaurant that everybody goes to. And it's the hole-in-the-wall looking thing, and oh my God, what's this? That you walk in that thing, and there's pictures plastered all over the wall of every president, Hillary and Bill, many congressmen and diplomats. And Jason was in about 30% of those pictures with those people. And now that does, you would think, well, geez, that's kind of foo-foo of you to see. But no, what I saw was somebody that is connected and is doing the job, and that's what I saw. So, anyway.
Okay. Are there any other legislative or regulatory reports? Hearing none, we'll move to staff reports. Finance and Administration Department. Is Colleen with us tonight?
She does not appear to be.
I'm looking on Zoom. Okay, does not appear to be. Okay, B, Operations Department. Director Henry?
I have nothing further to add at this time.
Nothing further to add. Parks and Recreation Department. Director Frisbee?
I want to say nothing further to add, but Pat asked me to add something to my report, and my brain doesn't work, and I can't remember what he asked me to say.
No, I think you picked it up.
Oh, okay. Was it during the item? Okay, sorry. I turned 47 this week, and now everything's downhill. I have nothing further to add.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
You're still a teenager, for Christ's sakes.
I turned 60 not too long ago, and that wasn't a thing. 50 was the big one for me. Okay, General Manager Pat Kaspari.
I did want to update you on the status of the 4.5 million gallon tank. They are laying the floor rebar. They were supposed to pour on this week, but now it's looking like they're going to pour the first half of the floor next week, and then finishing up the rebar and probably pour then, so the floor should be poured by the end of March. And then they'll move on to the walls, and like I said, we'll schedule a time to get the board up there to be able to see the construction of the walls, et cetera.
They're doing the floor in 2 pours?
Yeah.
How's the soil and everything holding up in the rain?
Surprisingly, very well, yeah. They have big mountains of soil out there, but it's holding together well. I also had some movement on the Mad River pipeline crossing. So our pipeline from Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District crosses under the Mad River and comes up North Bank Road. We turned in an application to FEMA, years ago now, to try to put a redundant pipeline parallel to that in there. We just got heard from FEMA that they have hired a cultural resource firm to start the cultural resource study on that. So they're gonna start the environmental permitting for that project. So hopefully that is getting some traction. Also on our sewer crossing project, which is also funded by the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant, we got kind of held up in the cultural resource work on that and had finished the other report, and I checked with them to see where that stood, and they had already submitted it to all the TIPOs, and they were getting ready to submit it to the SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Officer. So hopefully that'll break loose here soon too, and hopefully we can get that project moving forward. So that's it for my report.
Okay, thank you. This time, I'd like to recognize Supervisor Madrone, who is on Zoom. Supervisor Madrone, would you like to share anything with us tonight?
Thank you, President Bender. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Well, great meeting. Thank you again for the cooperative lease agreement with the county at the library and all that. Very much appreciate that. And we passed a short-term rental ordinance yesterday. As you may know, there's a lot of short-term rentals in McKinleyville. And so that's going to be rolling out, and we'll be getting people signed up. That'll increase our TOT tax. And I'm going to be making a push for McKinleyville to also be considered a gateway community, so that hopefully the chamber can get some funds. The chamber, as you know, is doing great work. And that's all I have to report tonight. Thank you. You're doing a great job, President Bender. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Okay, President's report. Let me see. I, along with the rest of the board, were in attendance and with Almy Allen and Mary Burke and the rest of them at the Badawat Estuary Restoration signage dedication. That was awfully nice seeing those 3 signs.
Could you tell us what the name of the place is called?
Shri Wet Gut? Is that right?
It's,
Shri Wet Gut?
I don't know.
Twyla, can you say it?
Yeah.
Shri Wet Gut?
Yeah, I think you did it better the first time than you did the second and third and fourth time. Yeah. Thanks for doing that, because that's really hard. We don't have those in English. We don't have those pronunciations that they do. So I was just giving you a hard time, but you pulled it off good the first time.
Giving me a hard time. Okay, but anyway, I went down there. I had a nice talk with Thad from North Coast Journal. Some of what I said made it into the North Coast Journal. I do want to clarify that he said that he quoted me as making the forest nice for my children and grandchildren, which I actually said or intended to say our children and grandchildren, because Christina and I are childless. So that caused a little bit of a little family thing, and we got some phone calls. But
Where you
anyway.
had those kids hitting?
Yeah, they were wondering, do you
Unchain
have
'em.
any kids that we don't know about, Scott?
Unchain those kids.
So, and I did attend the Aqua Communication Committee quarterly meeting. And so, that's all I have for my report.
Scott, I have one more quick thing I
Yes,
need to
sir.
say. So I apologize, I meant to highlight this, and Pat prompted. In front of Congressman Huffman's office, as you come into his office, he's got a real big sandwich board deal, and it's got a picture of his district and the work projects that he's funded. And our bridge, Hammond Bridge, is prominent there, and they highlight that, and I thought that was really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, F5, board member comments, announcements, reports, and agenda item requests. Anyone? Okay, hearing nothing, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay.